We just had a shooting in San Bernardino that is a terrorist act. Looks like there's two people. They looked at ISIS propaganda online. They traveled abroad, and the FBI now believes that they might have been radicalized. And obviously, their actions were completely radical. Now, it's a good thing that we have a terrorist watch list, so we can put people on it. Now, we have no idea in this case whether these guys were on it or if the intelligence agencies could have figured out in time to put them on it. Right? They had traveled to Saudi Arabia. They had traveled to Pakistan. They, we didn't know obviously at the time that they had listened to ISIS propaganda. And just traveling to those countries doesn't mean that they're radicals. But if you had more clues, you might have been able to put them on that list. And then maybe they wouldn't have been able to buy the 4 guns that they used, which they bought legally. Now, the reality is, even if we had them on the terrorist watch list, they could have bought those guns anyway. Because in the insane world of the United States of America, we do not stop people on the terrorist watch list from acquiring weaponry. Wait a minute, why do we even have a watch list if we're not going to stop them from buying guns and weapons? We stop them from flying on airplanes, but we refuse to stop them from buying weapons. Well, if they're dangerous enough that you don't want them on an airplane, well, then they're dangerous enough that I don't want a gun in their hand. But apparently, I'm in the minority in Washington. In the country, there's no question that we're in the overwhelming majority. Of course, Americans don't want people on the terrorist watch list to be able to buy guns. Polls indicate that very clearly. Well, luckily for us, there was very recently a bill called Denying Firearms and Explosives to Dangerous Terrorists Act. Seems like the most sensible act you've ever seen in your life. Easily lost. Lost in the Senate 45 to 54. It wasn't that close. And in the House, every Republican voted against stopping terrorists from getting guns. That seems so unbelievable that some right-wingers don't even believe it. They think, that can't be true. I'm a Republican. I don't want terrorists to have guns. Look it up. That's an act. It went down in flames, and the Republicans killed it. But you don't have to just look it up. Let's go to Paul Ryan right now. Okay, he's now the Speaker of the House. He's the one that made sure that that bill lost. Hey, Paul, why'd you do that?
He said we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but these same people whom we do not who we did not allow to fly could get into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing we can do to stop them.
Well, on this particular issue, we do have a Constitution. Citizens have a due process rights, and anyone can just be arbitrarily placed upon the no-fly list. In fact, that's happened quite a bit. Let's make sure that we act according to citizens' rights, the Constitution. Oh, and let's make sure that what we do actually solves these problems. So that is why I think we need to take a pause and see what's happening. This is why we're working on mental health already. So with respect to the no-fly list, I think it's very important to remember people have due process rights in this country. What we're trying to do is find out the facts and make sure that what our response is actually addresses the problems without infringing upon the rights of law-abiding citizens. That's the key here, Gail.
But it keeps happening. It keeps happening.
It keeps happening, but we also have citizens who have rights to be protected. Okay. And again, Gail, one of the common themes here, this is why we're really serious about our mental health legislation.
Yes.
Okay. Now, not everybody who does shootings has mental health problems. And no, you're not serious about that legislation. You've never passed it. But anyway, about the terrorist watch list, which is what this issue is about, he says, well, sometimes people get put on there arbitrarily. Well, then I would fix that problem, right? If we're going to have a terrorist watch list, we should make sure that it's a good one and that the people on it don't get access to weaponry, right? See, but that's an excuse. Oh, sometimes mistakes happen. Yeah, mistakes happen in everything. But overall, if let's say it's 2% mistakes, that means we would stop 98% of the terrorists that are accurately on the watch list from getting weapons. Wouldn't that be a great thing? I mean, these guys, these Republicans say, we can't take any percentage chance that the Syrian refugees might turn out to be terrorists, so we can't let them into the country. But then they turn around and they go, people that are actually on the terrorist watch list should be able to buy guns. Well, if we can't take any chances with Syrian refugees, why are you taking chances with terrorist watch list? That's the most irrational thing you could possibly say. And the reality is, of course, they just want the NRA and gun manufacturers to be able to sell more weapons. If it goes to terrorists, it scares the hell out of people, and then more people have to buy guns. That's not a loss for them. That's a win for them, and these guys work for the NRA. It's disgusting. I mean, if you're a Republican and you're in that camp, they're like, who cares about the terrorist rights, man? They don't have any rights. I'm not going to read them its civil rights. No way. I'm not going to read them their Miranda rights. Obama and the Democrats have argued for that. They're the worst. Look, so listen to what Paul Ryan just said. He's your Speaker of the House. He said he's really worried about the due process rights of the people on the terrorist watch list. Okay, so who's concerned about terrorist rights? Well, if you want to give him credit for that, apparently the Republicans are, right? So he's not alone. Here's Carly Fiorina. She's running for president. Almost all the presidential candidates on the Republican side, by the way, are in favor of the people on the terrorist watch list being able to buy guns. Go ask them. They're on the record. Here she is on Morning Joe.
Well, it is an unspeakable tragedy. And despite the headline in the Daily News, the first thing I did was say a prayer. Say a prayer for those who've been murdered, say a prayer for their families, say a prayer for those who are trying to recover, and say a prayer especially as well for our first responders.
Yeah. Please save me your prayers, okay? Those 14 people are already dead, 21 more shot, okay? What we need to do is stop people from getting weapons in the first place to do heinous acts like this. Praying is just a way of saying, I don't want to do anything. Oh, okay, I pray for their families after they're already killed. That's not cute. So here's her point on the terrorist watch list.
The left wing every time in a knee-jerk reaction to say the answer here is more laws when we're not enforcing the laws we have. Let's start by enforcing the laws we have.
But wouldn't it be common sense to have people who are on terror watch lists not be allowed to buy? I mean, there are common sense things that we can do.
Yes, but that's kind of a red herring, honestly. If somebody is a suspected terrorist on a watch list, they can be indicted at any time. And once you're indicted, you cannot own a firearm. Well, you know, my best friend's husband was on the watch list for years. It was a complete mistake. He also happened to be a gun owner. If I had utter faith in the competence of government, I might agree with that. But do you? I don't. The government screws up all the time. They screw up who they put on watch lists. They screw up, my goodness. There are litanies of things that the government makes mistakes on.
Litanies of things the government makes mistakes on. So since the government sometimes when they're trying people for murder makes mistakes, I guess we shouldn't have murder trials. Oh, wait, we should have murder trials even though they make mistakes. And when they make a mistake, somebody might wind up on death row. Now, in fact, that's an argument the death penalty opponents use to say, hey, government makes mistakes all the time. We don't want them making the final mistake and it costing somebody their life when it turns out they were innocent. In fact, we have dozens of examples of people that were on death row who were exonerated. And right-wingers like Carly Fiorina say, who cares about those mistakes? Murder them anyway. Who cares? Death penalty. Give them death penalty. Government makes mistakes. So what? Kill them. Right? And then she turns around and goes, I knew a Bob down the street. He was on the terrorist watch list. Really? Anyway, government makes some percentage of mistakes, so let's let all the people on the terrorist watch list have weapons. Okay, now, how many people are those, by the way? More than 2,000 suspects on the FBI's terrorist watch list bought weapons in the U.S. over the last 11 years, according to the Federal Government Accountability Office. Can you imagine anything more helpful to the terrorists than fighting for their rights to own weapons inside the United States? That is exactly what the Republican Party is doing. And then they use excuses like, 2% of the list might be wrong, the list might be slightly off, and wait, we could get them in other ways, maybe, possibly. So the 98% that are on there rightfully, let them buy weapons anyway. Cha-ching! My donors at the NRA are very happy about the terrorists buying weapons. You people are grotesque. So if you hate terrorists, as any right-thinking person should, you should hate what the Republicans are doing in allowing them to buy weapons inside the United States.